Darius Grant was a man who had seen both the best and worst in people. In his 38 years, he had climbed every rung of the ladder in law enforcement through sheer determination and an unshakable belief in justice. Growing up in a tough neighborhood, he'd witnessed unfair treatment far too often, but he vowed to be part of the change. That vow had carried him from a rookie officer to one of the youngest and most accomplished chiefs in the country. He was sharp and commanding, but never lost his humility. With a towering frame and deep, steady voice, he carried himself with dignity. He believed in leading by example, fostering trust between police officers and the communities they served. His assignment to Greenwood Police Department, a station known for its internal problems and troubling reputation, was a test of his resolve. The department didn't know much about him yet. He had chosen to arrive quietly, planning to introduce himself in his own time. It was a humid Friday evening when Darius decided to take a walk around the town. He had just moved to Greenwood and wanted to understand the community he was about to lead. Wearing a simple hoodie and jeans, he blended into the crowd easily. The streets bustled with people heading to restaurants, chatting on corners, and enjoying the start of the weekend. As he walked past the old town square, he noticed a police car parked nearby with two officers leaning against it, laughing loudly. Darius didn't recognize them yet. Sergeant Kyle Mercer and Officer Rick Daniels. They were known around the station for their crude jokes and questionable attitudes, though few ever dared to challenge them. Darius paused for a moment, observing. They didn't notice him at first, but when Kyle's eyes landed on him, his expression changed. He elbowed Rick, and they both straightened, a smirk creeping across their faces. "Hey you!" Kyle called out, walking toward Darius. "What are you doing around here?" Darius turned to face them calmly. "Just taking a walk." Rick chuckled as he joined Kyle. "You don't look like you're from around here. You lost." Darius shook his head. "No, I'm new in town." Kyle looked him up and down. "Well, welcome to Greenwood, but you should know we don't take kindly to strangers loitering near the square." Darius raised an eyebrow. "Loitering?" "I'm just walking through." Kyle's tone grew sharper. "And I'm telling you, we don't want any trouble." Rick added with a grin, "Why don't you show some respect? Hands where we can see them." Darius didn't argue. He'd seen this play out before, officers trying to assert dominance, testing boundaries. He raised his hands slowly, his eyes steady on theirs. "I don't want any trouble either." But Kyle wasn't satisfied. "Rick? Grab some rope. Let's have some fun." Before Darius could protest, Rick had retrieved a length of rope from the car. They pushed him toward a nearby utility pole, ignoring his calm attempts to speak. "You don't know who I am," he said evenly, but they only laughed. "Don't care who you are," Kyle sneered as he tied Darius's hands behind his back and secured him to the pole. "You think you can just stroll into town and act like you own the place?" Rick leaned in, smirking. "Consider this a little Greenwood welcome." People in the square slowed their steps, some whispering, some looking away. No one intervened. Darius stood there, bound but composed, his eyes meeting those of the onlookers. He felt anger rising, not just for himself but for the countless others who had endured similar humiliations. Still, he said nothing. He knew his moment would come. Minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. Officer Angela Hayes stepped out, her face immediately turning pale as she took in the scene. Angela was one of the newer officers on the force, and while she'd heard rumors about Kyle and Rick's behavior, she hadn't expected to witness something like this. "What's going on here?" she demanded, her voice trembling with disbelief. Kyle shrugged. "Just keeping the peace. This guy was acting suspicious." Angela looked at Darius, then back at Kyle. "You're tying someone to a pole for fun? Are you insane?" Rick rolled his eyes. "Relax, Hayes. It's just a joke." Angela shook her head, her voice firm now. "Untie him. Now." Kyle hesitated but eventually relented, grumbling as he loosened the ropes. Darius stepped away from the pole, rolling his shoulders but saying nothing. He locked eyes with Angela and gave her a small nod of thanks. "Sir?" Angela said cautiously. "Are you okay?" Darius's voice was calm but carried an edge. "I'm fine," Kyle snorted. "See, no harm done." Darius turned to face the two officers, his expression unreadable. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor." Rick laughed. "Good luck with that." Darius smiled faintly. "I don't think I'll need much luck." The following Monday, the entire department was called into the briefing room for a special announcement. Kyle and Rick leaned against the back wall, whispering to each other about what new policy they'd probably have to pretend to follow. Their laughter stopped cold when Darius walked in, wearing a crisp suit and the confident air of someone who belonged exactly where he stood. "Good morning," Darius began, his voice steady and commanding. "I'm Chief Darius Grant, your new commanding officer. I look forward to working with each of you to make this department one we can all be proud of." Kyle and Rick froze, their faces draining of color. Darius's eyes landed on them briefly before continuing his introduction. He didn't call them out in front of the others, he didn't need to. They already knew. Over the next weeks, Darius worked tirelessly to rebuild trust within the department and the community. Kyle and Rick faced internal investigations and mandatory retraining. Angela became one of Darius's most trusted officers, her courage in standing up that day not forgotten. For Darius, the incident wasn't just a personal victory. It was a reminder of why he had chosen this path, to challenge prejudice, to demand accountability, and to show that leadership isn't about power, but about integrity. And in Greenwood, a town that had long been divided, change was finally taking root. And that's the story, guys. I hope you enjoyed this journey as much as I did in creating it. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new adventure. And if you really loved it, share this story with your friends and family. Let's spread the word together. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep exploring. Hope to see you soon. Bye.